Hello and welcome back to the Avoid the Tyrewall podcast. Today we are joined by special guest Toni. Toni, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Absolutely, happy to. First of all, thank you both for having me. What should you know about me? I'm a European currently living in America. I work in the tech space, worked at the intersection of tech and politics for the last decade, and I'm also now a Formula One motorsports content creator.
Why did you create your TikTok account?
That's a great question. I think like many people during the pandemic, so 2020, I discovered TikTok, very much enjoyed the platform, very much enjoyed just the sort of breath of fresh air that it gave us, me and myself and many other people. And simultaneously, I had also created for a couple of friends of mine who just discovered Drive to Survive, or who just got into Formula One in another way. Again, because of the pandemic, I think a lot of us were trying to find ways to engage with sport content or any additional content. I then ended up creating a beginner's guide to Formula One. It was supposed to be a quick and easy, short guide, a couple of things that you need to know. And it ended up being a 54, 58 page document. And my friend was like, oh, great, thank you. You've basically given me a fuck ton of homework. And then sort of the two merged, and I realized I love writing long form content, but also wanted to find a way to create shorter form content. And I was spending so much time as just a passive user of TikTok. And I thought I might as well take this body of work that I've created about getting people into Formula One and put it on this new social platform. And so just started putting a few pieces of content and just started answering people's questions. And truly, I just love the platform. I love the community on there. And as I say to a lot of people who ask about starting an Instagram account or a Twitter account or a Facebook account or a TikTok account, you've got to love the platform. You've got to enjoy opening up the app and spending time there. So yeah, that's the genesis or the story behind my TikTok account.
Where do you think that Kevin Magnussen will finish in the standings this year?
So I avoid doing any kind of predictions, mostly because they always end up being terribly wrong and terribly left field. So I stay away from those, but I will say this. I've loved seeing him back on the grid. I actually think he's going to I think he's going to surprise us. I think he already has surprised many of us, that I think he is going to help that team and Haas get to more of the lower midfield battles versus being right at the back of the grid. So I don't know where he's going to end up in the standings. I'm not going to do a bold prediction because I just think it would be cruel to Kevin Magnussen. But I think we're gonna see him in the midfield battle, which is going to be interesting. And I think that midfield battle in 2022, it's going to be really interesting and really lively, which I think we've all wanted and we've all been waiting for that for a while. So I'm excited by that.
Especially with Mercedes stuck in the middle.
Yeah, like we wouldn't have thought the Mercedes would be part of that midfield battle, but they are as of now, right now. And I think that's the fun thing about the 2022 regulations, or I say the fun thing is the most interesting thing based on what you just said there, Teagan, is that it's going to be a slow progress for all of the teams. Like we're not going to, where the teams are today is not where we're going to end up at the end of the year, because the regulations are the biggest change that Formula One has seen in 50 plus years. So it's going to take teams time to adapt their car and figure out what spec they want to run and what that looks like. Yeah.
Now think of all the Haas puns I could make, but I will refuse to for once.
Saving us.
I know, it would have been catastrophic.
Love it. I'm here for it.
Even my sister's yelling at me for that pun. Right. How do you balance social media and real life?
I think it looks different for everyone. I think you've got to figure out what works for you. For me personally, what I've discovered over the years is I don't post in the moment. So I will capture content when, for a perfect example was this weekend, I was at the Long Beach GP. There was a lot happening. There was lots of moments that I captured, but I was there with some new friends and some old friends. And I did not waste any time posting while I was out there. And again, this works for me. It might not work for everyone else, but you know, the Wi-Fi and the 5G was shitty. And I knew that if I tried to post things, I would be in my content for at least 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, writing my caption and thinking about my video and trying to edit on site and then trying to post, and then it's not posting and getting annoyed by that. So that is something that has worked for me, is I will capture content in the moment, and I'll put my phone down and actually appreciate the moment with the people I have and what I'm seeing. And then I will go home and spend how many ever hours I need to do to create then the content and edit the content and post it. And I try and do that sort of ahead of time and do 2 or 3 videos so that when I go somewhere in the moment, I can post that content that's already ready. But that has been how I've balanced social media and real life. I'm not someone who vlogs in real time or who posts in real time. I do love going live on TikTok, but that's again something that's very separate. So yeah, that's worked for me, of just, you know, capturing in the moment, but trying to stay in the moment and not wasting any time posting and editing and doing all of that stuff.
How do you deal with hateful comments, if you get any?
Oh, I don't know of anyone who doesn't go online and doesn't get any. I will say what's been interesting is I think subconsciously / consciously, when I started my TikTok account, I started doing very factual content. You can't really argue with factual content. It's either, you know, it's either true or it's false. And I love doing research, and I love doing the necessary research to get you the most amount of information in the shortest time period possible. So I generally know that my information is 90% accurate. I'm human, so I will make mistakes and I forget things and I mess up things. But I know that by putting factual content out there in the world, very few people were going to have really strong opinions. When I started putting, and this is why predictions work really well on social media, because you either love the prediction or you hate it. But either way, you've got strong feelings about it, which fuels comments, which fuels hate, which fuels anger, which drives the algorithm to push your content even further out there. So it's a very clever tactic. I'm not saying everyone uses it as a tactic, but it is something that I've stayed away from. And so when I did start putting opinions out there, I started getting a couple of hateful comments. I will say this, it doesn't get any easier. I have actually purposefully never want to get used to it or be numb to that kind of hate. I have no issues with difference of opinions. I have no issues with people who have really strong beliefs and fundamentally disagree with what I say. I do have an issue with people just being hateful, especially people who don't follow me. And from day one of being on TikTok, I've been very forceful, but also very strong opinionated, had a strong opinion that I wouldn't allow for any of that either towards myself or anyone else in my comments. And I would just very, very simple, take a snapshot of it, delete it and block you. I generally give people 1 or 2 opportunities to just say, hey, is that exactly what you meant? Or was that supposed to come across so aggressive or so dismissive? And then I just move on. You've got to move on. That's how I deal with it. But there are days where it is more painful than others. And again, my biggest advice to people is, I know it is tempting to feed the algorithm to get your numbers up. And the way you feed your algorithm is you do really, opinionated stuff and you do controversial pieces. But that's not going to get you loyal, I hate using that word, but loyal followers or people who actually want to be a part of your community. That's just going to get you a lot of trolls. And I don't think that's a great way of growing. So if you can avoid feeding the algorithm and focus more on creating value and content, then you won't actually get that many hateful comments. I say that, and I also know that I've heard stories from a lot of women, especially in the motorsport space, get attacked just for being a woman, which again, I have zero patience for, especially get attacked for being a young woman, which is where my ode to the Sunday fangirl came up, because that has to change. And I was excited to see some of the F1 teams like McLaren take a stand and share their social media guidelines and share, what they will and won't allow, because I think they have a role and they have a responsibility. And if you're going to create such a big online space, you've got a responsibility to make sure that that space is somewhat safe. And again, difference of opinion is one thing. The hate is a whole other piece that needs to be, nipped in the butt.
Yeah, I know from experience, it wasn't online, but we do get online hate. People in my class and stuff, like boys, will come up to me and be like, well, you can't like F1 because I bet you don't know blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say, love, whatever makes you happy.
And And what I will say to that, Teagan, is it's a male-female issue. It's also a wider societal problem in that as a society, we have told the boys that they should like motorsports and the girls that they should like something else. We've done that division. And I'm hoping that that duality sort of disappears over time. I think it's on us. I think your generation of putting yourselves out there going, whatever you say, love, it's not because I'm a girl, it's not because I'm a woman that I'm supposed to like certain things or do things a certain way or speak. The amount of time that I get, middle-aged men tell me, well, you can't curse, it's not very proper. I'm sorry, since when did cursing become a male-female thing? And it's all, again, that's a societal problem. And you will talk to some guys who, if they're being honest, will say to you, I would love to be more feminine. I would love to say that I like to spend 30 minutes to an hour getting ready to go out, but I can't because society and my macho male friends will laugh at me. So it goes both ways. So I always try and have a little bit of that empathy, but it sounds like Teagan, like that's the right way of doing it. I'll brush it off and prove them wrong and go, I'm very sorry that you feel that way. I'm sorry that, what I like is making your day miserable. That's not a great place to be in. Go on and enjoy the rest of your day.
I've got about 100 stories, but I won't go into them because we'll be here for hours.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think I've not had any bad experiences, but at school, my teachers, quite a few of them will just ask me about Formula One. And if anyone has questions about Formula One, they just come to me, which is quite good.
I love it.
What advice would you give to someone who wanted to start an F1 TikTok?
I don't think this is anything that's particularly new or innovative, but I do think it is, and many people before me have said this, of just trying to be yourself. Do what feels natural to you. Don't try and force it. The moment you try and pretend to be someone else, it's a lot more work than just being yourself and going, being yourself online. I know so many people are always tempted to say, oh, but someone else is doing something similar to me. Yeah, but no one is you. No one has your life experiences. No one has your particular knowledge in a certain topic or your upbringing. So we all have value to share. And I think the more you start thinking about that, the more it becomes easier to sort of, go online and start an F1 account. But I would say it's one of those of like, take inspiration from as many people as possible and then make it your own. Get creative. And I think the third piece of advice that I would say is learn on the job. Don't start an F1 TikTok account or any social media account or anything for that matter online once you think it's perfect or you're ready to put it out in the world. Get comfortable learning and trying things out in the public, because if I would have waited till I had my content perfect to put it on TikTok, I think I would still be waiting to post my first video. Whereas if you start posting and you mess up online and you start again, like it's actually part of the fun, it's part of the learning experience. But it's a very unnatural thing to learn out there in the public and in the public eye. But those would be my 3 pieces of advice.
Do you plan your TikToks are really spontaneous?
Oh, well, it's still an interesting one though, Teagan, because it's a bit of both. I used to plan way more than I do now, in that, again, it like depends on the type of content you put out there. There's a lot of people doing commentary on news and commentary on races, 2 things I don't actually enjoy doing or want to do. I would much rather stick to the educational content, so I would plan ahead of time. But I've also realized that there's a lot of things that are happening, and this is one of the reasons I love F1, where it's brand new and I'm like, oh, I actually do have an opinion or I have a thought about something that has just happened. I will say this, it becomes way more easier if you've got planned content, because those days where everyone has those days where you don't want to get out of bed. And so the last thing you want to do, regardless of getting out of bed, is you don't want to put a camera in your face and start filming and being happy. Like having that arsenal behind you, like having those couple of drafts videos are really useful to put out. So I do a mix of both, but I always try and do evergreen content and content that's relevant with what's happening right now. So I like that. It's planning is always helpful. Planning so you don't have to worry about it is my key.
Yeah, I have that for our Instagram page. It's linked to Facebook and you can like plan, I think it's 75 days in advance or something.
Yeah.
Some days I'm just like, I'm just gonna make a post for months in advance.
Yeah, and the only trick with that, the thing to be cautious of is newsworthy stuff, or making sure that whatever you had planned isn't tone deaf with something that's happened. Like, these are all great things to just know. But yeah, I like a good mixture of planned content and just in the moment you feel like picking up your camera and talking about a subject, go for it. Those are generally the videos that do really well, because you're emotional about something. And I don't mean emotional in the bad way, I generally mean you're getting excited about talking about a topic, and that comes across the screen. Okay.
If you were a racing driver and couldn't compete in Formula One, what series would you choose and why?
I've gone back and forth on that one, actually. First of all, I don't think I'd ever be good enough to be a driver in any of these series, but let's put that aside. I think the ones that I'd be most excited by if I couldn't do F1 would be Extreme E. Looks really fun, and I love their mission, and I love what they're trying to do. I'm still confused is the wrong word, but I'm still waiting to see how they grow this, because they don't actually have real audiences at their races, because they're in such remote locations. But honestly, after spending a week at Long Beach GP, the super trucks looked a lot of fun, and IndyCar as well. So I think there's a plethora of other race series that look really attractive and look like a lot of fun. So I would do, yeah, Indy, Extreme E. Extreme E would probably be the one that's the most doable, I think.
What is your opinion on the W series?
So I mean, I was very excited for years ago. I know it had a lot of controversy, but again, anytime it's about women in motorsports, there's controversy one way or the other. I think they have an incredible mission, which is obviously, it's about creating a stepping stone to get more women into Formula One. I think what's been interesting over the years is that their mission and the reality of the series are not completely in lockstep. And what I mean by that is, if their mission is about creating a stepping stone or a path to get into F1, the reality is it's actually given drivers more of a platform to be known and to be seen, because what they're driving is more or less, well, we've just spoken about Formula 3, but they're driving more or less Formula 3 spec cars. So it really isn't a stepping stone into Formula 1. There's still a lot of things that they need to do, and you can see it in terms of the championship points that they win. They're far lower than you would get in Formula 3 or other series. So that's where I'm confused a little bit. And I think the other thing that keeps me awake at night is what's next. So we have Jamie Chadwick, who's going and doing her third season, and she's won, seasons 1 and 2 of W series. She's doing it again, and she still doesn't have a path or a closer path into Formula 1. It has helped shine a light on the F1 drivers, but yeah, I keep thinking, well, what's next for these W series drivers? And I'm not seeing that direct path forward. That being said, it's such a young series. It's only in its third year. It's still in its infancy. And I feel like, if anything, it's driving a conversation about what does it look like and what is it going to take to get more women into motorsports and to get more women into Formula 1. And I think that's a good thing. And I appreciate the commitment to doing that. And I don't know if that was really part of what they were setting out to do, but it's definitely shined a light on all of these drivers and kickstarted these important conversations about quotas, and conversations about, do we need to make it easier to get the women into F1, which I fundamentally disagree with. So yeah, that's how I think about W series.
I agree. I just think, like in other feeder series, how they aren't allowed to stay in after they won the championship. I feel like, because Jamie Chadwick obviously is a very, very talented driver, is it maybe unfair for other drivers to be competing against her? And she's got, obviously, £1 million is a hell of a lot of money, but it's not enough to buy or get her a seat. So they need to reevaluate the whole, once you're the champion, what goes on scene. Because I just think it's like Jamie Chadwick, very, very good, but is it is she stuck in W series?
That's what I mean by it brings up really interesting questions like that one. It's a really interesting question. What happens to a woman who wins 2-3 times in a row the same series? And why isn't she being promoted? What's missing? And so it starts bringing up these really important conversations about, well, what's missing? What more is needed? And what else do we need to do? Which I think is all good, to your point.
What's your dream Grand Prix to attend?
Monaco, mostly because it's such an iconic one, and it's one that I think should get off the calendar soon, because I don't think it is worthy of today's cars. I don't think it works for the cars, that the Formula One cars that we have today. So selfishly, I want it off the calendar, but I'd like to attend it before it gets off the calendar. I think also Monza. Monza, is one that's been in my mind for a long time. So yeah, those two.
I know someone who went to Monza. I think they got in for like less than 100 quid for all 3 days. I was like,
yeah,
the British Grand Prix could never.
And I was told also, if you want to experience Monaco, it is worth going for Formula E. You still get, it's not Formula One, but you still get the Monaco experience of what it actually feels like, and it's on the same race weekend, and it is way more affordable than, again, the Formula One Monaco. The prices are a little bit insane. Look, it was the same with Long Beach GP. We had IndyCar, we had IMSA WeatherTech, we had the Truck Series. What else? We had a Porsche Cup over a 3-day weekend, and it was $100 for 3 days, and $30 for a paddock pass. I mean, it's really affordable.
Right. What do you plan to do with social media in the future?
Ooh, that's a good question, Teagan. Honestly, whatever feels right. The thing with tech right now is that it evolves so fast. So the tools and the platforms and the social, the media spaces that we have today just didn't exist, even 6 months ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And so it's evolving at such a fast pace, and it's looking so fundamentally different. I mean, you brought up, Rachel, Roblox. Like, Roblox is booming in terms of popularity and the amount of daily active users that they have, which again wasn't a conversation we were having 2 or 3 years ago. So honestly, whatever feels right. It's hard in tech to look that far ahead. And again, a year and a half ago, I didn't think that I'd be doing short form content on TikTok. And when you brought up TikTok a year ago, people were like, oh, so you mean tweens dancing? I was like, well, actually, no. It's got a huge educational aspect on TikTok. There's a huge educational series on TikTok as well. And funnily enough, the stats have just come out that I think the 30s to 35-year-olds are higher in number now than the teenagers, which is fascinating, which just means, again, that the audience on all of these social platforms are so different as well, and they're ever evolving. That wasn't a great answer to a really good question, Teagan, but I honestly, I do believe whatever feels right. Maybe worth adding to that I have gotten a lot of benefits from being on social media and creating content, and I've done that for the last 15, 20 years. It is what has gotten me my next job. It has what has taught me something that I needed for my next job, which allowed me to be hired. So I have gotten huge benefits in creating my CV and my portfolios online with social media, and creating connections and meeting people that I would have otherwise never ever met. So I think that's the common thread that I would still pull through as well.
What has been the highlight of your career so far?
I would say writing and co-writing both the 2020 Beginner's Guide to Formula One, and then co-writing the official Beginner's Guide to Formula One with Formula One itself, which was really interesting to do, and that was definitely a great moment. But also creating the Sunday Fangirl concept has been so fun, and again, doing it so openly and publicly and with a great community. So I'd say those have been my two highlights in this space anyway.
How did the Aston Martin collaboration come about?
Well, actually, very similar to that other question that you were asking me about, how I think about social media and how I want to, engage with it in the years to come. It was a very natural collaboration. Aston Martin had been following my content. They decided to do two big things, or two big pushes, I think this year and last year as well, when they joined Formula One again from a 60-year hiatus, which was one, being an inclusive team, being very open, lowering that barrier to entry, bringing in new fans, showcasing what new fans and all the different kinds of fans would look like, and also focusing on educational content. So I made a lot of sense, I think, as someone to partner with. I also had been very open how I thought the Formula One would be collaborating more with content creators versus just influencers and celebrities. So it was a very seamless and easy connection, collaboration, and I've absolutely loved working with them. And fun fact, it's been all women that I've worked at Aston Martin, which I've absolutely loved as well. And has been a nice breath of fresh air. And I think that's going to be a collaboration that's going to be an ongoing collaboration, and I'm going to be working with them more in the months to come. So that's been fun. But it goes back to that point, Teagan, saying, like, if you create out in the open and you create a portfolio and you have a strong opinion of who you are and your values and what you stand for, it makes it really easy for companies to come and collaborate with you, because they know who you are, they know what you stand for, they know what they're getting when they engage with you, they know what they're getting when they collaborate with you. And with me, you get very honest but very educational content. Like that's what I know how to deliver. So yeah, that's how that came about.
Who do you idolize and why?
I'm going to be really boring on this, that I don't actually idolize anyone in particular. I have a lot of admiration for a lot of people, and I mostly over the years just have a lot of admiration for a lot of the women pushing for diversity and inclusion and representation, whether it's in motorsports, whether it's in technology, whether it's in politics. So I think I admire them as a group, power women, I'm just going to call them. But yeah, it's a bit of a boring answer. I realized this the other day. I just don't have an idol. I don't idolize someone in particular. That being said, I have deep admiration also for my dad, who taught me a lot of what I learned today and set me up, I think, for somewhat of a successful life. So yeah, that's my somewhat cop out of an answer to that question.
Which drivers or teams are you cheering for this year?
Half the grid. I'm one of those people who loves F1 so much that I, again, don't have one driver in particular. I love the grid that we have in 2022. I just think it's a spectacular lineup of people. Will say this, I am excited for two in particular. I'm very excited for the AlphaTauri duo. I think Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly are phenomenal together, and I'm really excited to see what that team can do. And I'm really excited for George Russell's at Mercedes. Like I think he is a spectacular driver. And I think he has big shoes to fill, and that is not an easy car, the Mercedes this year. So I'm actually really excited for him and see what comes out of it.
How many teams competed in the 2005 US Grand Prix?
How many teams competed in the 2005? You mean actually were on the grid and started?
Yeah, because there was like this massive scandal.
Yeah, I know.
Teagan, that's a hint.
No, I know. But are you saying how many entered the GP or how many actually started?
I'm thinking it started, but I'm not 100% sure. Should have thought about it.
Yes, how many actually started and drove?
God, was it something like 6? Wait, teams or drivers?
Teams.
3 teams,
Yeah.
6 drivers? Yeah. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a massive Tyre scandal. It's a phenomenal story for those of you who don't know about it. Okay. Well, I've got 1. I'm happy. I'll leave on a high if I get 1 point.
In which country was the title Grand Prix first used?
France?
Yes. No one ever gets that right. It's like, I would have thought it was common sense.
It's not, because the motorsport world in Europe is so closely tied to the UK and France. Like, they both pushed for that industry so much. But yeah, Grand Prix in itself is a French word, and it's the literal translation is grand prize in British or in English. Okay, I'm doing good. I'm now getting cocky. Go for it.
How many titles did Fangio win?
I have no idea. Titles or championships?
Like championships in F1.
Oh, I want to say. Oh God, I have no idea. 3?
It's a number between 0 and 7.
That's really helpful, Rachel.
Well, why did you choose 7?
But it's not like you can have more than Lewis.
Yeah.
Do not forget about Michael, Rachel.
What did I say? I said 3.
Yeah.
But I feel like he has more than Seb Vettel, but I'm not sure. See, he was way before my time as well. Did he have did he have 1 less than Seb Vettel or 1 more than Seb Vettel?
More.
Okay, then 5.
Yeah, correct.
God, I'm so sure it was 3 actually.
Okay. 51, 54, 55, 56, and 57.
50. Wait, say that again. 51?
51, 54, 55, 56, and 57.
Interesting. Okay.
How many father-son duos have won an F1 title?
Oh, that's a good question. And not championship, just an F1 podium?
No, the championship.
I don't think Jos Verstappen ever won. I'm going to say 0.
Incorrect. It was 2.
Who?
Graham and Damon Hill, and then KK and Nico Rosberg.
I completely forgot the Rosberg era, and okay, it's just 6. So 2. Okay. Wow.
Which 3 races make up the Triple Crown of motorsport?
Okay, so you've got the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Are you going to give it? Oh God, it's the 24 hours of Le Mans. It's Indy 500 and Monaco.
Correct. Yes. Can you name the only driver to ever win the Triple Crown?
Oh God, I could. I had that knowledge a month ago.
He was one of the answers to the last question. The one about the duos. One of them.
Damon Hill.
The other one.
His father. Yeah.
Yeah, Graham. I'll give you half a point.
This is what's interesting about knowledge, is it comes and it goes. Because yes, it still only is. I know that it's so few people actually want to break that record, because so few people actually want to do the Indy 500, Monaco, and also getting into F1 to be able to do Monaco and the Le Mans. That's interesting. Okay.
Which team won both the Formula 2 and Formula 3 Constructors' Championships in 2020?
Absolutely no idea. Wait, Mercedes?
No.
Say the question again.
Which team won both the Formula 2 and Formula 3 Championship in 2020?
Give it to me.
Who's the oldest driver to finish a Formula race, and how old was he?
Okay. Oldest driver, oldest F1 driver to actually finish a race?
I don't know if it's in F1, it just said Formula.
I know that person was in their 50s. And I know that it was in the 50s. And I know that person won the French Grand Prix. I don't know who that person is.
There's a very, very, very expensive Italian supercar named after him. As in, like, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Fagioli?
Sorry?
Fagioli? No.
It begins with B. Well, he's not
Bugatti?
his name, but yeah. Think of Bugatti makes. And then.
No idea. But also, I don't know if this is F1 or if this is any other series. I know that in F1, I think it's 53 at the 51 French Grand Prix. That was the oldest person to ever, which is wild, by the way, to think about. If it's any other series, I would have no idea.
It was Louis Chiron, aged 55.
Wow.
Mad respect.
Mental, yeah.
And mental.
Okay.
What is the name of the driver who won the first ever Formula One race?
Well, here I'm going to be pedantic. Because are you talking the first official Formula One in the Formula One World Championship, or the first GP?
I think it's out, the World Championship. I'll have a little Google.
So the actual have a little look, because I think they're different if you're looking at the Formula One official championship as it is today.
It's the first championship race. No, sorry, the first official Big Guns FIA.
Okay, so in 1950?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Giuseppe Farina, 1950,
yes.
Driving an Alfa. And I only asked because I think 1950 was the first official World Championship Grand Prix within Formula One, but they'd been doing Grand Prix before that, and they had unofficial It's just the history of F1 is fascinating, but also deeply complicated.
Yeah, that's like Formula 2 and stuff, like back in the day.
Yeah, and when it was GP3 before it became Formula 3. I mean, it's just, anyway, it's all fascinating, but yeah.
Final question. On this really bit of paper, there's a track. Can you name this track?
I'm shit at tracks. I have no idea. Absolutely no idea.
It is Spa.
No, show me again. I can't believe it's the one I've been to the most. Yeah, okay. I think I just give up on track questions. I'm so bad at the visual side of it. I'm sad I missed that one. Any other track, I would have actually just said Spa.
You got 6.5 out of 10.
I feel like the drivers last year with their half points. Okay, I'll take that. Wasn't too miserable.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of the Avoid the Tyrewall podcast, and thank you for Toni to agreeing to do this interview. See you next week. Bye.